Well, time for another silver update. You know, actually, I've been making lots of updates on silver lately, and I can tell you one of the reasons is because I think silver's on the way up. When it's on the way down, or in other words, when it's down in the dumps and it's taking a hit and everybody wants to throw in a towel, I want to kind of cheer you on to make sure you hold on when the going's tough. It's going to be easier to freaking keep silver now because you've seen what happened the last couple of days, but I think it's actually on the way up. I know there's been predictions about $8, $10 silver from the Illuminati people. Yeah, right. In freaking the summer, but you know what? Nobody knows actually, but I think it actually is on the way up. By the freaking end of this year, it probably will be finally freaking tearing up a lot more of what's going on. But you know, before I get on this update, I want to talk a little bit about the major alternative media because I've been kind of ragging on them. Oh, I haven't been more than kind of ragging on them, but I can tell you one thing: the major alternative media is basically working for the freaking bad boys. I already figured this out, and I got to tell you this: you know, if you can't make, I know there's a lot of crap that's going on in the United States. It has been going on in the United States for a long time. There's always been problems and blah blah blah. But I'm going to tell you this: if you can't make this crap work here, you're not going to be able to work something else work better. You know, in other words, if you can't roll up your sleeves and fix this crap, no way. And it's not sitting on your ass doing the job, in other words. And I'm going to tell you what these guys in the alternative media, what I'm really realizing is their whole game is for you to freaking feel down in the dumps, for you not to freaking roll up your sleeves, to reject everything there is that we actually, or reject our actual system and our structure, and to replace it with something else. Basically, that's what they intend long term. But that's what the alternative media really is about. If you notice all those pieces of crap in the alternative media, they're always constantly pro-Russian, pro-Iranian, pro-Chinese elite. And I can tell you one thing: even though there's like freaking a lot of screwed up things over here, all those other places over there are far worse by far, and they have a total hands-off policy of criticizing Putin, Russia, Chinese elite, or Iranian leadership or the Iranian clerics. They don't criticize any of them. And you know, one of the final straws actually came from Dr. Paul Craig Roberts. This guy, you know, supposedly was associated with Ronald Reagan, which I don't know. Ronald Reagan was some kind of, you know, conservative hero, but he's a load of shit too. They're all a load of shit. They all are. They all are. But you know, when Dr. Paul, you know, the final straw that got to me with the alternative media was when Dr. Paul Craig Roberts. This guy's a load of it, man. I can tell you that right now. I'm getting disgusted with this yo-yo. Rents, freaking Alex Jones, a whole bunch of them. But, you know, when he says that, Craig, you know, Roberts, he says that the Allies, which played an insignificant role in freaking World War II when it was the Russians that beat the Nazis. You know what? That piece of shit, I think, ought to be in the dirt. He ought to be doing a job, man. You know, I hate people like that. I hate eggheads like that. I hate them, man. He turns my stomach. He's worse than a freaking annoyed Jane Fonda. He's a piece of shit. But I know there's loads of freaking armchair little dorks that freaking cheering on the death of the United States that freaking just follow this asshole around. And I'm getting sick of it. I'm I'm disgusted with it, man. I'm disgusted with the freaking alternative media, man. I'm actually freaking more disgusted with the alternative media than the major media. But I realize they're both working for the same yo-yos. Me, I ain't working for neither one of them. But I'm going to tell you, though, the alternative media, in their basic doom and gloom message, is pretty much right. Because what we got going on here is like, we're going to have bigger financial crises. Actually, the major media is even warning about it. They're talking about it. They're talking about, you know, the economy might be a disappointment for many years to come. They're talking about this shit. They've been talking about it. A lot of people have been talking about the markets have been like, you know, they still haven't crashed yet. I've been surprised. You know, I don't know what the hell's holding them up. You know, electronic little bots going back and forth. Actually, all the money's flying out of the markets like this freaking waterfall here, man. That's actually there's net cash outflows out of the markets like crazy. It's going out of the markets. You know, and the markets are still staying up. But I don't think so for long, you know. So, you know, but I have to tell you this, that I don't, it's like, when something happens with a crisis this time, I don't think the Fed's not going to be able to bail out everything. And you know, one of these yo-yos on here at my channel is like, I don't think the Fed's going away. I think the Fed's going to have to be bailed out itself. You see, if the Fed gets bailed out, who owns the Fed? The IMF. The IMF bails the Fed out. In other words, the Fed ain't going away. When the next time we have the major financial crisis, the big one, what's going to mean is that that's really taking away our national sovereignty because we got bailed out by a global entity. And I think it's all according to plan. There's a method to the madness, man. There's a method to the chaos. You know what I mean? Right? Right? So when you're chilled out on the bike, I look at it as really the way to fight him is old school. I know it. Well, I'm like this. I'm a modified Amish. I'm a modified Amish that's modified Amish. It's a new definition, a new religion, man. Although I'm a hedonistic modified Amish, But modified Amish means let's stay with 40s and 50s technology, except for the internet and the cell phone. But everything else, and be hedonistic. That's my religion. I'm like, it's almost like I don't get it. That's one reason I'm not into like a lot of newfangled shit. I mean, I like some technology as long as it means it's more empowerment to the individual. But I don't like getting engrossed in it too much because then you get owned by the bullshit. But the thing is, we are actually going into a financial crisis for real. It's not like bullshit. Like, I know these freaking yo-yos been talking about they're going to replace the dollar for the last 10 years. You see the mirror. Yeah, I know. Yeah, right. Lindsey Williams, remember him? Freaking fossil buzzard guy. Harold Camping, Lindsey Williams, or whatever the hell it is. He's been freaking practicing that doom and gloom shit all the way to the bank. Harold Camping, what the hell is he worth? $74 million net worth, the guy that predicted the end of the earth freaking 50 million times. Yeah, I mean, tell me another one, man. So anyway, but I don't want to get into that kind of garbage, but and I don't put a lot of these silver videos out because I don't think I put more of them out when people were more down in the dumps. And a lot of times people start accusing me of being a silver bullion pumper. No way in hell. It's like, I don't want you to sell when it's too damn low. I don't know what the height's going to be. I think the next height, when it gets really strong, it never broke through the freaking all-time high yet. And when it breaks through the all-time high, it's going to go through the all-time high pretty far. But that doesn't mean it's going to go to 100, 200, 500,000, 2,000 like Big Square would say. But say 60 to 75. And I don't know this for a fact, but that's reasonable, I mean, you're not going to make $1 gazillion off of just holding some coins, but you might do pretty damn good, right? But, it's like you got to chill out. It's like you got to be, like, relaxed. You got your little freaking Yorkshire Terrier on your basket over here, and just chill out for a while, not freaking get all hyper about silver, because people, it is an erratic metal. It's been known to throw people off a lot of times. I know the freaking Illuminati silver guys keep thinking, they do Illuminati silver, whatever the hell it was, yo-yos were. They think it's silver. We think it's going to go to $8 to $10 this summer. I bet you don't, man. It don't look like it. It looks like it's going up. And, the reason I'm saying it's going to stay going up because I think there's more tensions going on in the Middle East. With Yemen and stuff like that. And, the Saudis have already, Rocky's over here freaking bugging me. Get out of here, Rocky. Get your butt out of here. That's a cat, man. He's a good cat. He always wants food. But anyway, the thing is, the Saudis are looking, the Saudis right now are more worried about stuff that's going on in the Middle East, like in south of the borders. In other words, in Yemen with the Shiites and the Iranians have got the sanctions lifted pretty much, and they're afraid they're going to get nukes. And the Saudis now, according to the New York Post, and like I predicted this actually, but now I saw it later on. I actually saw it tonight on the New York Post that the Saudis are looking to get nukes from the freaking Pakistan I think the Saudis already got nukes, but I don't know. Maybe they're controlled by Israel or something. Because the Saudi family and Israel are in cahoots with each other, right? So, but the thing is, what I think is going to happen is eventually there's going to be a nuclear war, there's going to at least definitely already going to be a nuclear arms race going on in the Middle East. It's going to lead to a nuclear war. And when that happens, oil is going off the market. But you know what happens when there's a lot of tensions in the Middle East? That's when gold goes up. That's when oil goes up. That's when gold goes up. And that's when silver goes up. It's a basic tenet. You look all the way back. All the way back. It never fails. I mean, you look at the prices, like in relative percentages, would probably be better, I mean, oil wasn't hardly, back in before the 70s, before, like, and then it would have in the the early 70s, then the late 70s. I mean, it was exponentially higher than what it was in 1968 with oil prices, but also was the gold, silver, and palladium and platinum prices, and they all run together, So you aren't going to make money off this stuff, and there's going to be a lot of what you call stagflation going on here, or Actually, these terms are all bullshit. I mean, there's a lot of different terms out there for disinflation, stagflation, stuff like that. But normally, what happens is when you got a crappy economy, with inflation, everybody's riding a bicycle like Sophia over here, maybe. Classic. Anyway, but everybody, there's a lot of inflation going on. Actually, inflation usually means, well, you got to look at it like this. There's a lot of different things. I know the consumer price index thing is kind of like bullshit, but you got to look at it like this. Where does it really matter most for freaking people that are the regular people? Inflation in energy and food. Now, we're going to have a lot of price increase in food, not just cause of inflation, but due to the weather. There's other things actually going to be influencing the food production too, besides the weather, which, the cold and the drought. We had the extra cold in the Northeast, extra cold in the north central United States, also in California, the big drought. We also have the problem with the bees, the bee colony collapses. I'll tell you another one. A lot of people don't. I was going to put a separate video out on it, but another thing that's going to drive up the food prices? Problem with the bats. Bats, believe it or not. There's it's a hardly known thing, but there's a bat crisis. You know what the bats do? The bats, little things like from Dracula and stuff. You know what they do? They eat the insects. You know what's going on? They got a problem with a fungus that's causing them to come out of hibernation early, and they're starving because they get out of hibernation too early, and there's no food for them, so the bat population's going down, which means they don't eat as many insects, which is bad for the crops, which is affecting agriculture. We got a lot of, actually Jim Rogers is going to be right about this shit. You're probably going to make a lot more money in agriculture. But, and also we have the war of the worlds here, which is between the Eastern and Western world. Like in Britain, like right now, they're trying to freaking, I don't know, Muslim. I don't know what the hell's going on over there, man. But, I get a picture of the drunk chicks over here, but to say a point. I don't know why they got these Muslims that moved over to freaking Britain, and they want to outlaw alcohol in Britain. I'm like, you're going to outlaw alcohol in England and in Scotland and Ireland, and you're going to, try to outlaw alcohol in Ireland and Scotland and Britain, man. Britain and England. Have fun, baby. You're not going to be able to do that shit. Talk about a war of the freaking cultures. But, maybe this is what the Illuminati really want, man. I really do think that's their method to the madness. It's almost like wherever there's tensions, they gotta step in with new rules, right? So it's like crisis. It's a Hegelian concept, but in a lot of different ways. And I think though, like with the silver area though, there's going to be a backlash against Islam, and I think where silver is going to go up is when there's going to be major conflicts between not just the East and the West, but between the Sunnis and the Shiites. And when that oil starts to get taken off the market, and there's a lot of tensions over there, you're going to see gold, silver, oil, palladium, platinum go way the hell up. And there's going to be a lot of inflation in where it matters most, in energy prices, and even if it's not due to the dollar collapsing or anything like that, where you're going to see it's food and agricultural prices are going to be way the hell up due to global climate change, because we're going into a global mini ice age, not global warming. Actually, if we're going to global warming, we'd have the food prices would be solved, man. Freaking, I mean, it's so ludicrous what the freaking elite are trying to freaking snow us with, man. But, you know, on the other side of it is, you know, there's a lot of cause to celebrate, you know, this doom and gloom that's coming up, because we're going to make a lot of money, you know? We're going to make a lot of money. And this chick here, she's really freaking celebrating, because she knows that what's coming up is silver's going up. But, you know, what I have to tell you, though, is that when silver does go up, you're going to wind up being scared to sell it, because everybody's going to tell you, do not sell at any price. But the point is, I got to tell you this, and I've been harping on this. When a business, say for instance, has a capital asset on their books for a long period of time, say for instance you invested in land, right, and you had real estate on your books for a long time, and it was like there, you know, I don't know, let's throw a number, it was $100,000, now it's $1 million, right? And when you go to sell it, and you say, yeah, at the point of sale, you take cash. Everything is transacted in U.S. dollars. That's why the U.S. dollar is not going away. It's going to be the medium of exchange in this country. It's going to lose clout in the world, but it's not going to lose all its clout. It's going to be a world reserve currency shared with, but it's going to lose. It's, you know, the Chinese yuan is going to be coming up as the world reserve currency. You know, the alternative media tells you like the dollar's going to nothing. No. And maybe it will 100 years from now, but don't hold your breath on this shit. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen in a few years, that's for sure. But it's going to lose clout. But at the point, you know, everybody in the world, when it does go up, people are going to be telling you it's going to $500. And maybe it will. I mean, I'd be surprised if it does, because I'm not going to sell all of it. I know that. But it's going to be going up. It's going to be going up. And they're going to be telling you to hold at any cost, no matter what it is. No matter what it is. But you got to look around, because during times of inflation in energy, in food, like when we had in the 70s, like if you went back in the 70s, like on a used car lots back then, or any car lots, and new car lots, I mean used car lots or anything, there was deals all over the place. I mean, you get a new Dodge truck for $4,200. It was normally $6,000 something or something. It was heavily discounted. I forgot what the price. They were ridiculously low. They were giving them away practically. You know? I mean, so, you know, if you need something like that, a big ticket item, the big ticket items that are hard durable goods are going to be going down in price. A lot of them. So that's what you would buy with the silver. But you're not going to make a direct trade for it. You're going to take cash. But you know what they're going to tell you? Don't take cash at any price. But while, you know, I already said this, because Sprott and David Morgan, and this is why I'm not too popular on this shit with these freaking yos, because I really tell them the truth. Sprott and David Morgan, they sold right on April 28, on Thursday, April 28, 2011, right at the height. Yeah, Morgan, he got lucky. Somebody tipped him off. I mean, I know it. I mean, if you have to be an idiot not to figure that out. You have to be an idiot not to figure that out. But you know, what the game is, though, what I don't like is, I really don't like this globalism shit. Like, I mean, the globalism would be cool. It feels like the globalism of Bill of Rights. You know? Like the anti-federalists were right. I don't like this crap where, you know, in other words, they're going to, but we're going to have the global dictators, man. That's really what the hell it is, man. You know, but there's ways around everything. There's ways around everything. You got to go old school. Old school means less control on by those assholes. That's really what it means. You know, like this old shovelhead here. It doesn't have one of those microchips in it. It doesn't follow you all around. It's like, you might have to do a little more wrenching. You might have to get out there and do a little more on your own. But you're not going to be subjected to all the controls like these assholes. And I really got another thing besides I got another beef with people that are like. See, I don't like doing these videos as much because it's all talk, basically. I'm going to probably do some hands-on videos, be doing some welding on my elliptical here because I busted it. But the thing is, people, they're profiting by your fears. There's a lot of people out there on YouTube that are like, yeah, the Jade Helm is doing this and the Jade Helm is doing that. Well, if they are and they are doing something evil, I'm going to fucking whack them, but I don't think they are, you know what I mean? I don't even know what Jade Helm is. I don't give a shit, to tell you the truth. But, they got this all over the place. They got this in religion, the satanic preachers telling you, like, oh, the dead, or they're flying around in jets, or they're selling you pharmaceutical and they're going to church at the same time, right? Bunch of lying weasels, man. I'm a straight shooter, straight talker, all the way. Period. And, it's not time to sell silver yet, that's for sure. But there will be a time, and when the time comes, it's, nobody's going to get it right exactly. If you get it exactly right, you're going to make a gazillion dollars probably if you get it right on the top. But the problem is, nobody's going to get it exactly right. But you'll know when the time is getting right was when everybody's telling you hold at any cost. Right now, now the bullion dealers are telling you, well, actually right now, this is actually still the time to buy because of the ratio. The ratios are so skewed. Actually, with silver supply to gold and all this kind of crap, and the silver price to gold, the ratios are so skewed. But you don't need to keep freaking dumping money into silver left and right. You don't need to freaking put all your eggs in one basket. That's one thing I always said, because you know what? I always said not to do, was because I always told people, even when it was freaking going up a lot, that silver's always been known as a high-risk asset that's possibly high reward, which is unpopular to say when it was going up a lot. And I didn't realize why it's so high risk, because it went down for so long. It went down for longer than I thought, and it went down harder than I thought, because I thought the bottom would have been like $24.50. That's what I thought. People were yelling at me, that was bad. They were saying, that's too low. It's like, I got that wrong, man. But, at least, hey, man, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people, nobody knows, though. Nobody knows. But it can throw you for a loop. And you don't be afraid to dump the shit if it goes way the hell over 50. That's the fact. And what's indicating that it's going to go over 50 is because this next time, when we have this next monetary crisis, the Fed's out of bullets. They really are. I mean, it's almost like who's going to bail out the Fed? Which doesn't mean the Fed's going away. The Fed in the U.S. dollar is not going away. But what's going to happen is it's going to be the IMF that's going to bail out the Fed, which is going to be more controls of the United States, its finances, and its policies, and its political structure more and more. Because, remember the old Rothschild saying, I don't care who the hell makes the laws as long as I freaking got the money and I can freaking do what I want with it, and lend it to you and do all that sort of shit. Basically, that's what it means. If the Fed's got to be bailed out, the U.S. government's got to be bailed out by the IMF, and there's a major crisis, we're owned by the bad boys. And, the other thing, though, is this. Old school, old tech can't really be measured and quantified that easily. You know what I mean? They can't. They try to quantify it, but not everything's right there in front of their computer screens. That's why you can throw them for the loop. You can fight them back, but it's like you gotta freaking stay with old school, which requires real work. That's one reason I really like silver, because it is old school. But there's going to be a time when you want to take that capital asset and you just want to swap it for something else. Maybe these old bikes will be really cheap. Maybe these collector bikes won't be worth too much way back later on. I don't know. I keep thinking these collector cars are going to go back down in value a lot, and I'm like, I'll scoff a few of those up too, whatever. But it's a matter of probably. I could tell you one thing that probably is going to be an ongoing moneymaker for anybody is just what Jim Rogers said: is agriculture. Because it's not just all about the currency, it's actually about the weather. The weather changes where we're going to global mini ice age. It's the problem with the bee colonies. It's the problem with the bat colony, the bat population, the bats, the little winged bats that eat the insects that help the crops indirectly. There's a problem there. Agriculture, but nobody does it because, oh no, farmer. Ooh. Yeah, I want to be a jet setter desk jockey, right? They don't want to do real work. You know what I mean? They don't want to do real work. I don't want to do that shit either, man. Because I'll do real work, mechanical work. I'm not too much with the farming shit. I'll fix the tractors, man. I'll soup them up, turbocharge them or some shit. But weld them up, make them stronger. But as far as how you're really going to fight the elite, it is going to be hands-on. It's going to be hands-on all the way. And that's one reason on this channel, like even though I have as a silver channel, it's a lot of different stuff. And the one thing that really can bring the economy up the most is health. Health. Because when people are healthy longer, and this is where these jackasses got it wrong all the time, when people are healthy longer for many more years, like in other words, it takes you, 20-something years of freaking going to school and all this kind of crap and 15 years in work before you really get into the groove, right? And then you start getting older and you slow down. If those people with all the experience were still vibrant, they'd be that much more productive and the actual GDP would be way stronger, right? But now they drug those people up with poison chemical freaking pharma shit and kill them, right? You know what I mean? So, actually we can improve our economy greatly. But hey, the GDP numbers might go down because pharmaceuticals be making less money. Screw the pharmaceuticals. Screw them. Screw them. You know what I mean? Screw them freaking pharmaceuticals. You better off freaking, I'm so freaking hell-bent on, almost every angle of society they've been pushing. From, the stupid politics to the stupid media to the freaking, all the bullshit everybody throws on everybody. And, actually, to tell you the truth, I'm actually flat out blatantly anti-religious in a lot of ways, too, because I realize I don't give a damn what religion it is, man. They're all screwed up, man. The more whatever religion they are, the more religious they are, the worse they are. The worse they are, man. You know what I mean? So I'm just a common sense type person, but I got to leave you with this thought. The major media is actually predicting doom and gloom in the markets, in the stock markets, shitty returns for years. The Fed's not going to be able to freaking do nothing about it. They're out of bullets. The major media has been predicting this for a while. Not as long as the alternative media has been predicting it for the last 10, 20 years. But the major media has been predicting it now for about a year. Which means it's going to happen. They're singing a song. It's going to happen. There's going to be major problems. But like I said, you can't quantify everything in terms of money. You can't. Old school is the way to get around them because I don't like quantifying. I don't like telling anybody anything in any ways of money because as soon as you say you give them a number, it's like bad luck. And you don't want people knowing about anything, So you want to keep it quiet with money. If you get my drift on that, It's almost like the guy that has the land and he's got trees on the land. He says the land's worth $500,000 and the trees are worth $60 million. Well, those trees don't exist, even though those could be scooped up and planted someplace else. You want to, like, not mention really what you got. That's actually my whole game, actually. That's the whole way. And that's one of the beauties of silver. Because they don't know what you got. They don't know. You never tell anybody what you got. Never. Ever. But when you actually sell, you're going to have to take, as scary as it sounds, you're going to have to take greenbacks. But that's only at the point of sale. But like any business, they don't hold all cash. They go on to the next capital asset and make the next investment. Which doesn't mean it's going to be one of these sit on your ass. Hey, you might be buying a farm tractor with the damn silver money, right? Why not, right? That's why I'm not for these freaking... I'm not trying to make somebody rich that sits on his lounge chair so he can go buy himself a Kia or a Hyundai. I'm actually trying to freaking help out people that want to make this country strong and help out their, everybody else. Or if you buy a lot of silver, you might want to get drunk and have a lot of fun. I don't know, at least initially. But don't get too drunk because you'll freaking lose your money. So anyway, just to want to remind you again, though, the major media is predicting doom and gloom. They have been. They have been. So it's not, in other words, they're finally catching up with the alternative media, which is always predicting doom and gloom. But they've been saying now that there's going to be a lot of freaking shitty returns for many years. The PE ratio has been skewed. I'm seeing all the problems with Saudi. Saudi's now in a nuclear arms race with Iran. And that can't be good. Shit. But as long as it's over there, not over here, man. That's all I gotta say. So anyway, stay chill, stay focused, and be happy. Ride a bicycle. What the hell.